Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Guy Midkiff, and this is SpotlightWashmo.com. I'm interviewing today here on our interview center Colonel Jack Jackson, United States Marine Corps, Semper Fi Marine.
Semper Fi there,
How you doing
my
today?
fellow Marine. I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on your show.
You bet. Well, you know what today's date is?
Yes, it's September the 11th.
And
12 years ago today, our great nation was attacked by the Al-Qaeda.
so
And we best not forget that.
I agree with that. That's probably subject for an entire interview in and of itself. But what we're here today to talk about is the Vietnam Moving Wall Memorial. And you've been asked to be a guest speaker of that to kick off the ceremony. Can we kind of talk about where it's going to be held and when it's going to be held?
Well, it's going to be held at the fairgrounds here in the city of Washington on the 19th through the 23rd this month, September. And we're looking for people to come and share the memories, live the legacies of the fallen warriors who fell during that war. There were over 58,000 men and women who fell in that conflict. And I served over there myself, and it was quite interesting after all these years to see the wall itself. Now, I'm just going to be very honest with you, Guy, up front. I went to the moving wall in Washington, D.C. one time, and I couldn't handle it after that. The actual monument, not the moving wall. The moving wall is touching enough for me, but I understand the significance of it and what it would present to the American people after all these years.
So we could assume that you have some friends that are on that wall.
Yes, I do. I have some friends that I served with. Their names are on that wall. A couple of fellows I went to college with. A good friend I went through flight training with. Like you, I was a Marine aviator and flew over there. And their names on that wall.
I always like to have one of my children ask a veteran a question when I do these interviews. And my daughter, she said, well, can you ask Colonel Jackson, was he ever scared while he was over there? Were you ever scared?
I think so, a couple of times. You know, fear manifests itself in a couple ways. You can be scared and withdraw, or it manifests itself, in my case, in anger. And it wasn't until the situation was over that I thought, good grief, I could have gotten killed in that mess. But I was so angry at what happened when I got shot down in helicopters a couple times. And then when I got pulled out of the bush, if you will, by my wingman, I thought, good grief, this is not good.
Well, again, I think we've come upon another subject that we could sit down and talk about in depth sometime. The moving wall, from what I understand, this is the original replica, and all the rest of the moving walls that are going around are replicas of the replica. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct. This one was the first one, and then there's others that are traveling around the United States. The wall comes to a certain area within, like here in Washington, via contributions from people to help support it. There's a lot of significance in this wall. And I have found, I've been to others, and I'm deeply honored to be a speaker. But there's 58,000 names on that wall. There's fathers, there's sons, there's grandfathers. And some people just really don't know what happened back then. One of the things that I think that this wall will provide to those who don't really understand what happened back then is to remember what happened to those who lost their lives and weren't honored because of the political situation at the time. And it will help eliminate some of the heartache to those of us who came home and weren't treated very well.
Yeah.
And
I think I can see a little passion in your face when you make that statement.
yes.
Isn't there a lesson to be learned here, though, that if we're going to commit our soldiers, our Marines, our sailors, our airmen, if we're going to commit them to combat, we need to realize that they've been committed to combat through government, that they were not the ones that committed themselves to the combat. They're doing what their country asked of them. And don't we hold, shouldn't we always hold these men and women in high regard and esteem? Because they're not the ones that made the decision to go over there. They're the ones that left their farms, their manufacturing jobs, their college, wherever their families, their loved ones. They're the ones that went over there and they paid the price. It wasn't the politician.
Well, that's right. When we were asked to go as young men, we went. It seemed to be the patriotic thing to do. I remember when I went, I did not realize how unpopular I was as a man in the uniform who, that people just didn't appreciate us.
Yeah.
They didn't care. I had no idea. And all we've ever asked of our, as you say, soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, and even our veterans, all we've ever asked is that you work hard and your blood be red. Those are easy things to accomplish to defend this nation. And so when they come back and when they come home and we honor those who didn't come home, it is up to the rest of the nation to fulfill the promises that they made when they shed their blood for our country.
That's correct. That's correct. You mentioned 58,260,000 men and women were killed in Vietnam. Some of the statistics are heart-rending, to say the least. Can you talk about?
Yes. Some of the little-known facts, and I don't want to bore our audience with facts, but these are important. This war took the lives of 8,283 young men and women who were under the age of 18.
Oh my gosh.
There were 12 on that wall who were 17 years and younger.
17?
17. When we look at some of the veterans today, and a 17-year-old kid who's probably a junior in high school gave their lives so we can sit here and look at this great nation. There were a little-known fact, Guy, there were 5 who were 16 and under. There are 16-year-olds in this city, in this nation today, who just got their driver's license.
That's amazing.
And others, during that war, perished so that they could go get their driver's license. Those sort of things are just unbelievable.
Those kind of statistics really, they yank at your heart. I understand that it's a big deal for people to do rubbings where they take a piece of paper and they put on the wall to rub a name. Are they going to allow that?
Yes, they are. They will allow them to do that. What I found was in another episode when I was involved with the moving wall, was there was a lady, she was, I suspect, somewhere between 35 and 40, had a couple children of her own tagging along. And she was rubbing a name with a piece of paper. And I just kind of watched her, and she finally looked up at me and she said, "That was my father."
Oh my.
But I never knew him. She was born while he was over there, and he never came home. And she said that I just want to show my children what their grandfather, what he did for them. So there'll be rubbings. It'll be pretty special.
And I just want to conclude. I've got kind of a general question that hopefully we can summarize some of your thoughts about what's going on. There are a lot of people that don't remember the Vietnam War because now, decades are starting to wash away with time, the memories. And there are also a lot of Americans that were not alive during the Vietnam War. What lesson should future generations take away from the Vietnam War, Jack?
Well, first of all, I would encourage anyone who has not seen the replica to come out. And here's what you'll take away from it, in my opinion. That war was fought, as you mentioned, Guy, by young men and women who just said, I've been asked to go, and I will make sure that this great American flag sitting behind us is not dragged through the mud. And our legacy as Vietnam veterans should be, number one, we'll never let the flag be drawn through the mud. And number two, our legacy will make sure that these veterans, the young soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who are coming home from the conflicts today are never treated the way we were when we got home. And I'll tell them a story, just a little teaser. If you come out on the 19th, I'll tell you a personal story of why I'm so adamant about our veterans and specifically this wall.
Jack, thank you so much for your
Thanks
time.
for having me.
Appreciate it.
Semper Fi Marine, Semper Fi to all the Marines, and thanks to all the veterans out there who we'll see you on the 19th.
Yes, thanks to all of our veterans. Thank you very much.